Follow me with your shape-shifting smiles, and I see you. Maybe they'll believe you. Illuminati, occult dawn trial, silver discs and hidden files, and we see you. We've got to believe you. Blast off. Blast off. Blast off. Blast off.
Hey, what's up, Wolfpack? It is a cold time out here, but forgive me for I had to get this out while I could. That's why I'm bundled up ridiculously. Let me explain something really strange that I just came across. And this has to do with the missing General Neil McCaslin. Of course, we know that he went missing now 3 weeks ago. It's been 3 weeks. And this general, allegedly, they found a shirt of this general near a hiking trail. The guy was in great shape. They put a silver alert out for him, even though his cognitive ability is off the charts. They said they did this to basically go above and beyond and be ahead of the game. Make sure that if there was anything, I can't stand this thing. Make sure, even though it is cold, make sure that if there was anything going on, that, if he had any cognitive fogginess at all, that we would be aware of it. And it all makes sense to me. It does. But at the same time, we have something that's inexplicable. And I've talked about the deep state, the potential shadow government involved with possibly wanting to control the UFO narrative and not let people find out about disclosure, because we have people in government who want disclosure, or it appears want disclosure. Everybody from the president to Tim Burchett, there's a number of people who have motives to get disclosure. Now, what's interesting is something that not a lot of people are talking about, and that is the UFO narrative controllers. Okay, let me explain why they would have a dog in the fight, so to speak. My dog's wandering around in these woods here somewhere. The reason they would have a dog in the fight and why they would want to suppress disclosure is very important to this. And they have motives, okay? I've talked about this before. There are people that want to keep this all under wraps, okay? That's the bottom line. They want to keep it under wraps. Now, a woman has gone missing 9 months ago who was tied to General McCaslin. She was an astrophysicist, if I'm not mistaken. Her name was Monica Reza. And she eerily went missing near a trailhead. In fact, she was on a hiking trail with someone. He was ahead of her. He was looking back. She would wave. They would talk. Everything seemed fine. And then all of the sudden, out of thin air, gone. She was gone. This was 9 months ago. She had ties to Neil McCaslin through some of these classified projects, hidden programs, having to do, I believe her essential work was creating a special secretive metal that was used on a project and some exotic technology. So let's talk about the shadow government UFO narrative controllers and the framework of how this would all work out. Because now we have two people missing who are tied to the potential disclosure of, or at least they would be people of interest, right? People of interest that the narrative controllers would not want out there talking about this stuff if this is a potentiality, if this framework is true. And I believe that there are UFO narrative controllers. That's my theory. And it is a common conspiracy framework. This is a long-standing speculative theory, popular in certain circles, rooted in the idea like the alleged Majestic 12 group from the 1940s and onward. Now, this has been expanded on by researchers such as Richard Dolan, whistleblowers like David Grush, Lou Elizondo, and it posits a hidden, unelected shadow government. Some call them the cabal. These are high-level military intelligence officials, defense contractors, and possibly private elites. We'll get to some of those possibly private elites because they may know more than the defense contractors, the military intelligence officials, and even the cabal itself. But they tightly control, all of them together, tightly control all information about non-human intelligence, crash retrieval programs, reverse engineered craft, and the goal is total narrative control to keep the public in the dark, maintain a monopoly on exotic technology, and prevent any public in the dark from knowing anything. They want to maintain people in the dark. They don't want anybody to know why they maintain a monopoly on exotic technology. They also want to prevent any uncontrolled disclosure, which is where this is coming to the head right now with the president talking about it, former presidents talking about it. They need to kick into action if any of this shadow government UFO controlled narrative controller theory is true. So they want to control disclosure. And here's the logic of why they would want to suppress insiders who know classified material. I've had a few people say, why would they be interested in the general? This makes no sense. Well, actually, no. They would be very interested in the general and others connected to him. And now we are aware of somebody 9 months ago, Monica Reza, who was disappeared on a literal hiking trail. Somebody was just ahead of her hiking with her. They would look back. She would say hi. They would say hi. They would talk. And then sure enough, she up and disappeared. They have still not found her. Okay. So how would they suppress if this is a framework, a theory, which I believe it is, and that there is basically private elites, military intelligence officials, defense contractors, a quote-unquote cabal of some unelected who would be interested in keeping this all under wraps. How would they go about doing it? Well, first of all, they would suppress insiders who know classified material. People like General McCaslin, people like Monica Reza. Then they would move on from there. They would suppress disclosure. The theory argues that full verified disclosure of the UFO or UAP phenomenon, or the reality of UFOs and UAPs, especially if this involves biological, non-human intelligences or alien functional technology, this being outed would be catastrophic to the controller power structure. Specific reasons usually include, at least in my theory, the existential threat to global power structures. Basically, revealing that humanity is not alone and that the advanced beings who have been visiting for decades or longer would shatter religious, philosophical, and political authority. Government and religions derive power from being the ultimate arbiters of truth and meaning, and a confirmed we are not alone. You know, when you look up and you realize we are not alone, the confirmation of realizing we are not alone would shatter this control structure. This would take away power from those who derive power from being the ultimate arbiters of truth and meaning. And a confirmed paradigm shift would collapse all of these organizations. It would upend stock markets. If 0-point energy alone, or anti-gravity, which is not that hard to do, by the way, renders fossil fuels and current transportation obsolete and causes mass panic or societal breakdown, the shadow group allegedly sees itself as the only entity capable of managing this entire situation without chaos. They have a monopoly on this. So this is how they would go about doing it. They would actually in many cases, nab people that are invaluable, or extremely valuable individuals. They would grab people that have the potential to break it all down. Their monopoly on world-changing technology would disappear. Let me make sure my dog's not too far here. No, he's not too far. All right. So, crashed craft allegedly contains exotic technology, propulsion systems, energy and material science that dwarf anything that's in the public. And reverse engineering programs, ever since Roswell, ever since 1947, ever since the crash and the alleged materials and possibly biologicals that went to Wright-Patterson Airfield, the same airfield that Neil McCaslin was in charge of. This reverse engineered technology and the reverse engineering programs, which have accelerated black projects like those tied to Lockheed Skunk Works, Raytheon, L3, the list goes on and on. Some of them, there were black budget Pentagon projects that took place right here in this area I'm standing in. But the bottom line is that this would give the controllers godlike military and economic advantages. Free energy tech could end the petrodollar and oil empires. I'm pro-oil. I don't think that the oil companies are behind trying to smash anti-gravity. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of people have their hands in the cookie jar on this one, and anti-gravity alone would basically obsolete conventional aerospace. Think about how much our country spends on NASA every year. That would all have been waste billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. It's over $30 billion a year that we spend just on NASA. So disclosure would democratize this technology, ending the cabal's exclusive control and trillions in black budget profits. Now, there is a geopolitical angle to this. Adversaries like Russia, China, etc., if they learn the full extent of the recovered tech or non-human intelligence versions or technology or contact protocols, which we use right here at Space Wolf Research, for example, they could duplicate it or form their own deals. Worse, some of these versions of my theory claim that shadow governments have made Faustian bargains with some of these non-human intelligences. And yes, I'm talking about deals with the devil, so to speak. These non-human intelligences are not always what they appear to be. They can appear to be things other than what they actually are. And it's my working theory that there have been Faustian pacts between governmental structures and some of these entities. And many of these may be in exchange for technology or permission to potentially abduct humans for experiments. We've heard about my labs. We know that this has happened. So at least that theory, the public knowledge of this would expose these alleged crimes against humanity and destroy some of these controllers' wealth systems. These are machines. So we're talking about self-preservation of the machine here. I've heard of people who just literally say, I work for the machine. And I get that. We all work for the machine on some level. But these programs are deeply, deeply compartmentalized and illegal in many cases, above even presidential oversight per some accounts. And a great example of that is here we have the president talking about the reality that he wants to disclose information, and now we have people missing. So I don't know that these are connected. I don't know if the abduction or the missing persons case of Monica Reza, who worked with Neil McCaslin, creating special medals for classified projects. I don't know if her missing persons case is connected to Neil McCaslin, but it is eerie that they both disappeared on hiking trails. They were both involved in the same programs, and that there's no hide or hair of either one of them. So this is a big deal. Now, the programs that we're talking about are deeply, deeply compartmentalized. And in short, disclosure isn't just embarrassing for those programs. It would dismantle the entire post-World War II power pyramid that they sit above. These people, these controllers, these power players sit above. And there are private entities, private people, private individuals who know more than the military intelligence programs. And this is how they would allegedly keep insiders silent. In other words, they have methods, right? They would have a multi-layered suppression apparatus designed to be deniable and psychological and lethal when necessary. And it's not crude Men in Black, oh, they nabbed them off the trail and they're gone. No, it's not anything quite like that. It's sophisticated and bureaucratic. They would know where they are at all times. They would make their move quickly, and you wouldn't know what hit you by the time they grabbed you. They have ironclad NDAs with these individuals. They have special access programs, SAPs, and born secret classification under the Atomic Energy Act and the Espionage Act. So basically, there is a threat of lifelong imprisonment, and there is also loss of pensions, treason charges. Whistleblowers like Grush have publicly described, I'm freezing out here, sorry, being threatened with prosecution or simply reporting to Congress or just being disappeared, unalived, if you want to call it that. There have been threats, and that's why there's this compartmentalization. Most people only know tiny fragments or need to know versions of whatever they're working on. So even if one talks, they lack the full picture to be credible. So you would have to nab multiple people, because multiple people would be puzzles to the overall scenario and paint a perfect picture of it. Now, there's also the psychological operations here. So these quote unquote Men in Black do exist. I don't want you to think they don't. And these Men in Black would visit, literally come to your home, for example, and maybe find you on a trail. But these Men in Black do exist. They have modern equivalents, like what I like to call business casual Men in Black. That's the new version. It's not like it used to be in the 50s. The new version of Men in Black is business casual. That's what they look like. And they are the modern equivalent, plain clothes agents showing up at homes, hotels, trailheads. And they would involve things like electronic harassment, gang stalking. Maybe there's a reason the general left his watch and his phone at home. They would use things like direct energy weapons, which we now know exist publicly. We've known it for years, but now we know they exist publicly. They would use voice-to-skull technology. This alleged tech has been tested in Black programs for decades. And they would include surveillance to induce paranoia and discredit the person as crazy, possibly right before they go missing. With Neil McCaslin, even though he's going to be the brightest guy around no matter where he goes, the guy is just sharp as a tack. There was allegedly a little bit of brain fog before his disappearance. I'm not going to go into that, but these are the types of things that you would have as symptoms of some of this. And there might even be familial threats, in other words, subtle warnings that accidents could happen to loved ones if anything was spoken of. So the darkest tier would be, I don't even like to talk about this, natural causes, suspicious disappearances, and elimination when necessary. So I believe that this is a possibility that these things could take place, and that we may be dealing with a scenario when it comes to disclosure that we have important people going missing all within less than a year. Let's keep our eyes on this one. Don't stop. Keep your eyes on it. Love you guys. Have a very blessed one. I'm going to warm up a little bit. I need some warm fluids. I need some coffee, and I need to find my dog. He's down here somewhere. Ingo, come on, buddy. Come on. There he comes. All right. Have a very blessed one. And thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to heroparanormal.com. Slide on over there, and anything helps. If you want to buy something to help the podcast, slide over to happinessmedical.com. My wife makes some great moisturizers, which I need now. My face is so dry. All right, love you guys. Take care.
Hypo Esoteric Research Organization.
Hero paranormal, always setting up the pace, man. Crop circle tipping, Illuminati still tripping. Making those ears perk up, gonna make you question your earth. You better. Mystery bloodlines and secret society. Creepy shapeshifter says, come sit beside me. Yeah, cozy on up. So what's with all this spiral, acting like UFOs? Say what? So people in space wolf tiptoe through the dark. Third eye blinding, tune in and blast off, blast off. Blast off, baby. Blast off.